Alrighty. Hello, everybody, and welcome wherever you're tuning in from around the world. I think it's pretty late for Amir. He's tuning in more from the east. I'm in Europe, so kind of maybe in the middle of the globe, and then all the folks tuning in from the US East Coast, West Coast, etc. So we're gonna wait for a little bit, probably over a couple minutes until all the folks are coming in here. But we have a lot of folks coming in, tuning in from YouTube, tuning in from X, tuning in from LinkedIn. Typically, majority of folks are tuning in on LinkedIn. And what I would like to do, guys, is if you can put into the comment section, so whether you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, etc., where you from, what do you do right now at the company, and maybe what is maybe your number one challenge, maybe when it comes to lookalike audiences. So have you built lookalikes to drum up demand, drum up sales, etc.? If you have not, that's great. Just say that. Or if you did, what was your experience like? And maybe any challenges that you're seeing. Actually, Amir is very experienced. He's the domain expert in the field of lookalike building. We also do lookalikes. Everybody does lookalikes. And it's something that definitely should be used. It's one of the core audiences that you should have as part of your sales outreach. I'm gonna say, one thing that I like to personally do, like 5 years ago, even, before lookalikes became like very big. Whenever I used to close deals, so I used to be in sales for over 10 years, whenever there was a close one going to Slack, I was like, I wish I could find more similar companies that I could prospect to, right? And I think this is, if you've been in sales for a bit, you're like, damn, I want to, find a few more companies and sell them the same thing, or tell them, hey, I'm working with these guys as well, right? Lookalikes are also always used naturally in other spaces like Meta, etc. Right? So lookalikes is definitely a thing. It works, right? And it exists as a concept. But the reason why we're doing this session is because I thought that there's not enough knowledge in this space. So I asked nicely Amir. He's going to introduce himself in a bit on talking about this topic. But quickly about me, my name is Frank Saunders. I run a company called Salesforge. We essentially run multiple products across all things called email and all things LinkedIn to do the outreach at scale with double-digit reply rates. That's all I'm going to say about me. Over to you, Amir. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Frank, again for inviting me to the webinar. And welcome, guys. Welcome, folks. And I hope you'll enjoy this session. And also, I can also tell about myself. I'm Amir. I run a startup studio company for about 8 years. And we have 2 exits before. And now, last year, we started working on a new project, which is Company Enrich, that includes many useful endpoints like lookalike companies, semantic search companies, that kind of stuff. And now here we are.
Nice. What maybe just on this question, because I know you had multiple startups, right? So, but just why did you decide to start Company Enrich, maybe?
Actually, it was like a kind of need from our own experience. In my previous SaaS startup, it was also heavy dependent on the data, like a B2B data. We were dependent on third-party data providers. And that time, after a volume, we saw our data bill become increasingly too much. And after a point, we wanted to see whether if we can handle that process as well, and try if we can create this kind of a endpoint that will create enriched domain responses. And it worked pretty well. And then we just abandoned our previous startup, and because the company is starting to growing very fast. And that's why, this is how actually company is born.
Great. Yeah, I've been following you guys for quite some time, so it's very great to see the things that you're doing in the space. So everybody who's tuning in right now, again, just going to recap because we have a lot of folks joining in a bit late. Whatever you're tuning in from the world, it would be just good to find out where you're tuning in from. What do you do at your company, whether you're head of growth, you're head of sales, whatever it is that you do, whether you tried using lookalike audiences or not. If you tried, what was your experience like, and what are the challenges maybe that you're seeing? If you didn't try, why didn't you try to using lookalike audiences? And we're going to try and talk about some of the topics if you have some challenges so we can fine tune maybe this content a bit more towards you guys. And then Any questions that you're going to see over the next 20 to 30 minutes where we have some good content coming up with Amir, feel free to put them into the comment section. And then together with Amir, we're going to take them live on stage and we're going to answer all of those questions. So there'll be a bunch of questions. We're going to try and do them more at the end. All right, Amir, without further ado, let's have a look what you've got for us today. And let's kick off with some good content. So, yeah.
Yes, let me share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see that. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. And welcome again, guys. And today we'll talk about like a more lookalike data use cases, how we can use in different GTM workflows, and how it's born actually, and why we need kind of like endpoints and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And here's me, Amir. As I said before, we are running a startup studio for a long time, and the company, which is the latest our startup that we started in work last year. And here is our Frank. I think many of you know Frank very well.
By the baking emoji, yes. Yeah. So a bit about us. So we run multiple what we call forges or softwares, but also one of the largest AI SDRs on the planet called Agent Frank. If you're wondering, how it works, you can just go to agentfrank.ai and get an email delivered to you, uniquely crafted to you. And yeah, that's what we do across cold email and LinkedIn as a channel. So that's all I can say. Alrighty.
Awesome. And now we'll cover today, like, let's say, the problem why this regular traditional firmographics filters actually doesn't really work well. Mm-hmm. And solution to them, like how vector embeddings replace this solution. So what we use instead of like a traditional firmographic filters, mm-hmm. and why it matters, for example, how to use this lookalikes and that kind of stuff in our GTM motion. So to quickly like start with the problem, why this like there's a kind of a need for a lookalike companies endpoint. So the problem with the like regular search is like the traditional filters are not built on for our current GTM market modern strategies. They are kind of a little bit outdated framework, and they simply don't have many filters that fit into the most modern, let's say, companies or industries. They are kind of like a little bit old. So there aren't many enough categories, filters, mm-hmm. or industry tech to capture whole, companies and the industries, let's say.
Yeah, I have some examples on here, like, like B2B SaaS companies or fintech, even like other like niches, like, gambling, whatever. So there's a bunch of, categories just don't exist in the typical database, like Apollo, etc. So, that's where this sort of data comes in, in handy, right? So
yeah, especially the AI startup, for example, let's say how we will define like a lovable dev or cursor. It's a kind of new category, but emerging very quickly and become very big. This is kind of the problem that the regular search doesn't fix. And the traditional regular search is not cannot be integrated smoothly into the new GTM workflows, because it's a bit hard to filter this kind of companies. So there's a solution for this kind of bottlenecks, and this is like we called it semantic vector search. This is the core mechanism for that makes like possible to find highly relevant companies. I mean, lookalike companies. So if I just try to explain it very briefly in a simple way, this like think as a DNA of a company. We analyze like a DNA of a company. We go for a deep research of the company, for example, what they do, their business model, industry, if they are local or targeting B2C, their funding stage, specialities. And even, for example, like a founder background is also can be important in terms of creating a model, the company DNA essay. And the next stage, we like get this DNA and turn that DNA into the, like, say, mathematical points. Like each each company became like a point in a kind of space. It's kind of like a thing like in the matrix. Everything is like become numbers, and in every company will get a kind of mathematical number for their own. And finally, what we do after getting like this mathematical points, we measure the distance between these points to find companies similar to the conceptual that company. So if there's let's say two company and we compare them, if there's a distance of these mathematical points are short, that means there's a high relevance between them. But if there's a it's not the difference distance is long, that is mean it's not quite like similar. So this is basically how we can find like a relevant lookalikes of the companies. And now we can look where it really shines, where it like really outperforms the regular firmographic search. There's like four aspects I can say. One is like a discovery, and because it understands like a DNA of the business, it can like discover many conceptual similar profile, like traditional fitness may ignore or sometimes cannot miss. For example, like SaaS companies for dental clinic is like is it the software or is like related with healthcare, and it's quite complicated.
Yeah,
And,
especially, I'm just thinking to myself, this is particularly powerful, where it's very, very tricky, the ICP, so ideal customer profile you're looking to go after. And then you need like a really big list, or let's say, you're operating in the market where you need thousands and thousands of other lookalikes, right? So I think this is where I see a lot of value, because yes, you can go maybe into ChatGPT, or you can ask, can you give me some similar companies? I'll give you like 10 companies or whatever. But I think the discovery around, hey, these other hundreds of companies, that's where the discovery really works really nicely. So yeah, that's where I see a lot of value, right? Because on a daily basis, I'm reaching out to like thousands of companies. And when I know, like, I think for me in particular, when I know that this account, let's say top 10 account, or top 100 account that pays a lot of money in terms of MRR, I'm trying to find more similar accounts to that, especially when this is like a weird company, essentially a company that you'd not suspect that they would actually do a lot of business with. You're like, damn, I can't find similar companies like this. And so this is where then I would go and would search really for a lot more of these companies using the lookalike approach. So I do a lot of discovery, and not just I think here, Amir, with the the way you do things, but also I'm thinking of other tools where like discovery is like super important in terms of lookalikes. So tools like SimilarWeb and other tools where you're just trying to find other companies that maybe users are either going into, or kind of companies that look similar to yours.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good point. And for this kind of companies, it's really hard to like find with traditional, traditional filters. So there'll be like a many missing one. And even if, as you said, and if you ask for a ChatGPT or this kind of like LLM, it will bring like a 10 or 20 companies. But after that, it will bring some, unrelated companies. That's why this having a specific LLM or data source for this kind of discovery purpose is also like important. And another thing where the semantic search, semantic vector search, lookalike search, like performs well is like a relevancy. For example, by design, it lets you to measure the distance between the businesses. So that's why the basic principle of like similar companies, this is how it works, for example. So we can show you the relevancy between two companies, and this is very important in the finding similar companies. And the speed is also really a kind of advantage, because you don't have to like build manual like filters, because you need to like find out which filter is good, which filter is like getting more better results. But instead instead of this, you just like your input is a kind of similar one company, and it will consider it as a filter as well. So it's very, how to say, easy to like use, and it will reduce really time for that. And the last one, I think this is the most relevant for us for all the GTM space. The lookalikes are very easily can be plugged in the modern GTM workflows
Yeah.
and agents, and because you need only one seed of company to get many companies. Instead, if you want to do it with the traditional filters, it won't be automated as this much. So it will be very easy to combine or create your own automated GTM workflows and use it on the agents. This is actually very important, I think, right now for us.
Yeah. Something that, I see doing ourselves and other companies is where, again, kind of I brought up that example, but we onboard hundreds of customers every single month. And then so for every single customer that's close won, you can programmatically sort of pull a list of kind of lookalike customers, pass it to, say, Agent Frank or any other agent, right, to go and do the outreach,
Yeah.
right? And it could be what I would describe like a daily behavior, meaning, every day you onboard new customers, you build programmatically lookalikes in every single customer, and then programmatically you do the outreach, right? So this is an example workflow that I would do. It doesn't have to be through an agent. It could be just simply, hey, if a customer gets onboarded from this category, doesn't matter, logistics, etc., then for specifically this category, we're going to find other companies and we're going to send a relevant a message to that industry, mentioning that we are onboarding maybe aggressively customers from this industry, right? So that's because I also look at kind of, I'm also thinking of like niches or segments of the user base where you can build nice workflows based on the segment. And so the copy adjusts and not naturally as well, right? So my question to you, have you seen on the lookalike front, do you see typically people that execute on predominantly email and LinkedIn as an outreach, or they also do a lot of calling, or what has been your experience, Amir, working with thousands of customers?
Actually, as I know, they are more integrated in their own workflow, not the calling, but as a starting point, maybe I can say. And then some companies, they also do manual calls, but mostly integrated in the clay or integrated in their own product and use automated programmatic workflows.
Gotcha. Cool.
And of course, there are some also cases where semantic vector search struggles a bit, and
when the companies do everything, right?
yeah, it can be challenging to create a model of companies when the company's business model is not clear or vague. So I think we are all seeing this kind of websites. You go to the website and see a lot of a buzzword. You still get to look for other pages, but still it's not clear what they do. They write a lot of things on that. Yeah. And for me, it's like a Palantir is also kind of company like that. Actually, I don't really know what they do, but still I have an investment. I bought stocks of them, but this company is like that. And another edge case is with large big corporations, because they produce many things, they operate in many verticals, so it's hard to create a model.
But I would say that the need for this is just lower. I think it's not like a lot of the sales population is prospecting into these accounts typically, right? Yeah. So, and there's a less of a need, right? So if you kind of know that if you close Samsung account, the other kind of accounts, and there's not that many, I think, lookalikes. I think the more volume there is in a niche, the more there is a need for lookalikes. Would you agree with that, or where do you see the highest need for lookalikes, kind of generally from a?
Yeah, it's more for a kind of emerging companies and for the kind of niche companies. As you said, for a big companies, I don't also think that there's a kind of need for it. But people usually, when wanted to play around, they just write their the known companies. Usually it's like a Samsung or kind of big company. That's why they may see kind of irrelevant results and say, okay, lookalike doesn't perform well. But for a thing like Samsung, they can produce smartphones, they even produce washing machine, hard drive. So it's kind of like a hard to get the whole point of the business model and create like a good model. And the same for the Xiaomi. Now they even like creating a car, building a car. So they do a lot of stuff. So this is this kind of like an edge case when it's like hard to create a good model that will be useful in the lookalike engine.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But if anybody has any questions based on what you've seen so far and what we're covering, and we have a lot more good stuff coming up in terms of the use cases, feel free to pop them into the comment section below if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, etc., and we'll pick those up at the end. Let's go to the next section, Amir.
And yes, we just like I think we wanted to try cover the all theoretical aspects, and now it's time to dive in a more kind of strategy and use cases. And the first and the most like used use case like market mapping with lookalikes. And I think most of us are like familiar with like the term this total addressable market, but it refers like a total number of the potential customers who we can sell or we can offer our products, I can say. So this is sometimes can be like an issue for the agencies or people who want to like get the whole data of market and wanted to start their outreach or campaign or strategy. So with lookalikes, we can like get approximate like a market, total addressable market. And how we can do is like we get one seed. Seed is like a target company that, let's say, represent your ideal customer or something like that. So what we do, we get 100 lookalikes of this your target company and pick some samples for one from the first result of as a company, and from the middle, the fifth, and the last as a result from the the sample. And after that, we just like diversify. It's really important because it will like create more, wide perspective, and will help you to like create and catch more different sub niches that can be targeted as well. And in the last stage is like combining and merging, because there will be many duplicates and this kind of similar companies in all three searches. You need to be like, merge all those results and the duplicate. And at the end, you'll get like a more big total addressable market, I can say. It comes like it helps you to create quickly this kind of like a market view of your offer, of your service, or your target marketing. And there's also many other ways, but this is one of the ways that our customers are using our, lookalike engine for the TAM mapping.
Makes sense.
And another is a use case is also targeting niche industries is also another powerful use case, I think, for lookalikes. With using lookalikes, we can like discover very specific, very targeted different models, and ultra niche ones even like and it's really helpful in finding this company. Let's say you want to like offer your service to companies like that are selling software or SaaS for dental clinics. For example, what you do in traditional or other data sources, you need to like start with the industry. So what you do is like you put information technologies, computer software, hospitals, wellness, that kind of stuff, and it will bring many unrelated companies from the software, that kind of, even the big companies will see like a Salesforce, Zoom, because we put like a company computer software filter deck. And,
so you would say that the entry, so the input is the well-known company. Is that what you would go with to actually get a good list?
Exactly. Yeah. If when you want to use it with the lookalike strategy, you start with the well-known, relevant domain. Like in our cases, like CareStack is a well-known SaaS provider for dental clinics. So the vector search will analyze the DNA, let's say, for care stack, and then compute get the points, mathematical points, and instantly.
So what you're trying to say as well is that if we would select like a tier 2 or tier 3 input, it's gonna have worse results. Is that what you're trying to say?
Not, but it will be easier to put a well-known company as a one result, let's say tier 1. And then it will bring, after that, you can also bring other inputs as well, you also input the lookalike domain or company or even the traditional filters. But it's a good to start with the all good known any company that you are targeting.
Makes sense.
And it will narrow your a focus from industry and that doesn't really fit in that time for a company, and it will save a lot of time comparing to the manual filtering research, and it will create a good high relevant list based on the niche industry that we are targeting. So this is another a real world use case for our lookalike data. And now we can look at what we can do with the closed deal and let's say opportunities. As you also, Frank, said, you are using a closed deal domain for getting similar companies, and you will manually reach out or in a programmatic way. So yeah, this is also a good use case for that. So what we do is we clone our success. We want systematically replicate what already working. And the same thing as suppose we are just closed the deal and our client is happy with our solution, I can say. And in that case, there's a strong chance that similar companies will also be interested in what you are offer. And it's the same logic applies even if you receive a positive reply from your outreach. So there's a kind of high positive chance that if you get a reply from there, their lookalikes, their competitors they may be also interested in such your offer. And so what we do is here we get for every close the one deal or positive reply or we instantly generate lookalikes of the company and feed those lookalikes with and multi-channel outreach like email, sales, calls, and maybe ads. And what we also do, by the way, in our site, if you let's say run a SaaS product, what we do, for example, if someone registered to our platform and there's a kind of ICP match with the sign-up company, what we do, we also do a lookalike lookup for a sign-up and generate lookalikes for the company who signed up to our SaaS product, and then we just send them outreach because there's a high chance of the interest of there as well. So this kind of a play you can also apply. So the good here is you can set up once this kind of play and it will generate lookalikes and emails or LinkedIn DMs automatically. So when you just set up once and it can be can work for a long time without any so it's generating pipeline, let's say, even while sleeping or don't doing sales stuff. And another strategy or use case is as you may remember, the strength of the vector search is that it can return highly relevant companies based on the seed account domain. So this means lookalike companies are kind of similar profiles, often could compete for the same customers. Yeah. So in other words, they are typically could be competitors. So we can use this data to identify the competitors at scale. So what we will do is we get the lookalikes and get the competitors from the lookalikes, and we can make a reach out to them. But the good thing is we can use the the competitor's name inside like copy. For example, let's say you get like you get like a competitor's name, and you can mention competitor names inside your email copy, and it will create like an instant relevance, like because we are like naturally like paying attention to the competition, and it's kind of
So
like a
something that's even better that you can put in the subject line as well. That works also.
yeah, it will be it will your
Just like your competitor's name, in the subject line works wonders for open rates, and also people then actually reading your email body, and then replying back. So just a quick tip on how can you get more replies. So
yeah, it's a great tip for that. Yeah, even if even in the title or in the body, like you can use like before your computer gets ahead on this, you should take a look on our service or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I actually have a whole just webinar on how to write cold email copy, and one of the slides that definitely cover the angle around leveraging competitors. So if somebody's wondering, it's on Salesforce live tab, where you can check out the how to write really kick-ass cold emails. But yeah, you would need this, to actually execute these emails programmatically at scale. Because naturally you can write them manually, and I sometimes write manual emails as well to my prospects. But guess what? 9% of my volume in terms of outreach, we send like 10,000 emails per week, and then we connect with about 3,000 people per week on LinkedIn. So a lot of volume, but a lot of that volume can be only done when it comes to like really crafting a kick-ass copy and mentioning dropping competitors is using something like this. So,
yeah, it will be very effective. Yeah. And after we identify this competitor, we can also use their like LinkedIn followers. And you can like fetch their, let's say we get the list of your competitors, and we'll get their LinkedIn profile, and we can like pass to the LeadsForge or that kind of other tool that you can scrape the followers. And at the end, you'll get like an educated audience that also are familiar with your industry or what you're offering. So it's also good that because they are more likely to engage with your like a copy or other thing like even the content that you produce maybe. So what you do is like you can like run multi-channel outreach using like tools like yours, like a Salesforce. And also another good one part is like you can also support these campaigns, like a multi-channel campaigns, by creating a matched audience on LinkedIn. So you'll get the whole followers of your competitors. You can create a matched audience based on their like I say properties, and then you can create a, let's say, kind of pixeler audience and run targeted ads on LinkedIn. If you are operating in like a B2B, it will be, I think, good way to like support your multi-channel outreach.
Yeah, naturally conversion rates increase massively, or like reply rates increase massively if you support your outreach efforts to get with what I call inbound efforts, let's say in social, whether you're doing organic posting or so essentially social selling, but also you double down when it comes to ads. But with ads, you need to know what you're doing because it can become like a bottomless pit in terms of the money kind of going down the drain. But like matched audiences, retargeting, like all of that massively can support then your reply rates. And so we do a lot of that, LinkedIn ads and organic, etc. And this is why we're able to see double-digit reply rates on Salesforce when it comes to hitting those audiences. But yeah, the LinkedIn followers of our competitors, even our integration partners, is something that we use to extract, and then we write the relevant copy naturally also to those audiences, and they always work. So I rather use that audience than like a typical database, right, where you just enter the industries and stuff like that. So I would say any database that you use out there and all the filters, that should be really your last resort. The first resort should be lookalike data, followers of competitors, and anything but the database kind of signals is also good. So yeah.
Yeah, when you start for this kind of like sources, as you said, I think it will be bring like a more positive replies or more good results in terms of them. And after you consume all this thing, then I think you can may go to the filters, that other industries as well. But first, the goal is like get the most relevant result and let's say use all that, squeeze the juice of that thing, and then go to another, like say, source.
Sounds good.
Yes, and this is also another interesting example and creative approach. One of our customers has a very small, like market, total addressable market. They are building like a custom software for fitness equipment for like treadmills, bikes, this kind of products. So they also originally they tried like a traditional cold outreach to their potential customers, but they end like not very good, and their replies rate was very low and success as well. So they completely like think about their strategy because they have a small, like let's say, market, and they started as a new engine, like a GTM engine, a podcast. So what they do, instead of like cold pitching their leads, they just like started to invite prospects into their podcast to share their experience, insights and stories. So they source their initial like a guest list from the lookalikes of their existing customers. So what they did, they just like sent they get lookalikes of the current customers, and instead of like a direct pitching, they just ask for a would you like to come to our podcast, that kind of stuff. So after like several appearances, they also get trying to use the appearance guest domain as a lookalike input. So they have like a massive, massive list that can be used for a podcast invitation. So as they like say, the response rate like jumped to the 8% to the podcast invitation, which was like a 0.47, which is from cold outreach. So and
this is what I would call pulling a data list from a normal database, and you're gonna see 1% or less reply rate, which is what you would typically see, right? So and then there's a huge jump if you would not do that, so, so yeah.
And even as I said, is even more interestingly, there's most of the replies converted to the podcast appearance. So there's like a key idea is like when you get like lookalikes, don't think that you should like email them or pitch them. You can like use this kind of GTM motions or engines to try to reach out to your customers, prospects. So you'll get like more time, like a meaningful relationship with your customer. You talk them, you share kind of experience. So it's not kind of salesy, but it's like a more good for them as well. So it's also was a good strategy. And another interesting place like for lookalike is like a high intent signals. And you also know like website visitors can like provide very strong buying signals. For example, who is a special land for a high intent page like pricing, alternative page, kind of like terms of service, privacy, security pages. So this kind of visits means that the business already like considering or evaluate your solution. So it's also very good data. So what we do is like first we identify high intent visitors using tools like Warmly, RB2B, or Vector. Usually what we do, we just like directly write to them, email them saying, oh, hey, I saw you are like interested in our solution or that kind of stuff. This is what's usually done. But instead, we'll take another step. We'll take the lookalikes of the high intent visitors of the company, and we'll generate, let's say, 100 lookalike companies based on the single that domain. And then we'll reach out to these companies like with kind of different outreach text. Like, let's say people from a visitor company are already visiting our site, so I thought our offering could be relevant for you too. So this is also like creating kind of relevance. And as I said, usually they can be like operating in a same industry, so they may know the visitors company name. So it also create of kind of psychological filter. Even if they are not interested right now, they will take a look what you are offering. So it's also
You're playing on the FOMO, fear of missing out, essentially, right? So, I mean, you could do
yeah,
it
yeah.
I mean, on one hand, you could do it on the website, the visitors, and de-anonymize them. But in theory, you could also do it on simply of users that sign up to a software, right? So you have a sign up, and let's say Sony has signed up, whatever. Maybe that's not the best example, but whatever. Warmly has signed up. Let's call it, let's give an example on our site. And so then, we'll figure out the lookalikes, let's say Vector and RB2B, and we would reach out to RB2B and Vector saying, hey, Warmly, companies like Warmly are checking out actively our site. I was wondering whether LinkedIn outreach and cold email outreach is top of mind for you guys to generate a lot of MRR this year, right? So I think that you can kind of do it in different stages. I think the other thing that I like when it comes to intent or de-anonymizing intent, we do it on a lot of sort of competitor pages as well on the site. We de-anonymize intent on that. So an example would be, let's say, Warmly versus RB2B. You build a page, you de-anonymize, and again, you can get the lookalikes, and you can the copy could be around, again, the fact of like you're shopping around, right? So I see companies in your segment are shopping, companies like, are shopping around, reviewing this time of the year. This time of the year is people are, thinking about new softwares, what they're going to buy, etc. I was wondering whether this is top of mind for you or not, right? It's a nice little angle. And that's something that can be orchestrated and tested whether that works for you. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's also, it's very, I think it will be not very much converting, but at the end you will get some kind of attention from that. Maybe in the future they will also look alike for a solution like that, and then it can be reminded somehow. And yes, the event and webinar sourcing is also another play, and it also can be applicable for a sign up, as you said. You can even apply this for a newsletter. Let's say when someone registered to your event, you can take a company or domain of the person who registered to the event, and they say to generate lookalikes of this company, and reach out to the lookalikes, like, kind of like a social proof message, like, as you said before, like we have people from, let's say, company A attending to our webinar on this kind of topic next week. Since you are in the same space, I thought you may want to grab a seat too. So it's kind of.
I'm not doing that. Something comes to my mind. Maybe I should be doing this.
Yeah.
For
it can be like applicable for events, webinars, even news letters and that kind of stuff. So it will like bring a high relevant reach out to this kind of people, prospects. And yes, this was my last slide. And I think you guys have questions or liked this presentation.
A bunch of questions. Just generally kind of. So I know that you answered quite a few of them already. So I'm not going to cover those. I guess, one question that we have from the audience I'm seeing here is around hiring. Do you see any lookalike use cases in the hiring space?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, actually, it was included in my slide, but now I switched focus more on the GTM side. That's why I didn't add it. It's like a highly relevant also for lookalike for using the hiring. Because I know the many hiring agencies are using lookalike because their customers, let's say they are sales company and looking for, let's say, the people working on their company, and what they go to the sales hiring agents say, find our candidates who are like can be work in our company, who knows like an industry, who knows all the context. So what they do, they just hiring agencies go directly to the lookalikes, and they get the lookalikes of the, let's say, client, and get many companies, and try to recruit that people inside the company. So it's really, I think it's a good way to use for hiring. because that people will also familiar with the big context, with the industry, and many inside, kind of not the deals, maybe inside information, but which is not highly available for everybody. But if you can recruit person from that company, it will be like a huge, I think.
Yeah, I'm to give you an example, I'm actually also running what I call lookalike campaigns also on email and LinkedIn, where I'll give you an example. I'm looking for engineers, specifically Golang engineers, which is the context that we have behind the scenes. So I would reach out to like thousands of Golang engineers in particular locations that I believe we will be able to hire. Based on what we can afford, and maybe other examples. But instead of kind of looking, using sort of a lookalike sort of engine for this or anything like that, I'm simply mentioning in the copy to that individual, hey, we're looking for a Golang engineer, and I'm asking this to a Golang engineer, and I was wondering whether you know anybody in your circle that maybe is looking for a job. So I'm not directly asking you whether you want to work for us. But I'm asking, do you know other good people? Because essentially good people know good people, or Golang engineers will know other Golang engineers, right? So that's the mindset I'm in. And guess what? We generate a lot of interviews just that way. So the lookaliking, essentially, there's no engine. There's just a copy. The copy is asking, do you know somebody in your circle?
Yeah.
So we do this a lot. And guess what? The reply rates are just humongous. And it's just a copy thing. So the lookalike kind of strategy and the thought process is in the copy itself rather than in the audience that's being generated. But this is just to give you an idea, what also could be done on the copy front when it comes to lookaliking, because we use that aggressively for different job roles that we're hiring right now. All right, there's another question by Ruskar from another cool startup, and Zainab is asking, so one of the things that people are asking, I'm also wondering as well, is whether you guys ever going to expand beyond companies, right? So finding similar people, right? Because sometimes it's not about the companies necessarily; it's about finding the similar people. Like, I don't know, a VP growth signs up or head of sales signs up from this type of company, and I just want to find other 10 very similar people to that, rather than just simply companies. Is that something that's on your roadmap, guys, that you're looking to provide?
Yeah, actually, we are looking for a provide people search, but for a lookalike people, we actually don't see any point, because the information about the people we have is only their like a title or how many years they worked, that kind of stuff. So there won't be kind of like a context that we need to create a model based on the lookalike of the people. Maybe we can use like for a, let's say, for a title, kind of similar. For example, as you say, someone can write as a title like a Golang engineer, sometimes they can write a Go developer, that kind of stuff. Maybe we can add their kind of lookalike, position lookalike thing to make easy to find like people.
No, I'm just the way I was thinking. I'm not naturally building any of this. I'm not a coder myself, but the way that I would do this, let's say manually or in Clay, I will pull naturally companies. So let's say again, let's use SaaS companies in dental. I'll pull the companies, and I have this amazing title, let's say VP sales, whatever, right? And then I will find other VP sales in other companies. That's how I would kind of go. Like, I'm looking for the kind of similar title, or who is essentially which person is responsible for sales in this company that's also lookalike company of that, right? So that's how I think about it. Because in a lot of cases you're just looking for, you're not like companies is like, oh, that's one layer, but the other layer is like, hey, I wish I would find more Johns or more Amirs out there, right? People that build softwares, whatever, or multiple softwares, right? And people have that need. So I know this is quite hot as well in the space, but let's watch the space. What's going to happen this year, guys. There's a lot of questions that we already have answered. If anybody has any questions for Amir or me, anything that has to do with lookalikes, maybe also beyond lookalikes, if we want to ask, now is the moment to ask. So feel free to put it into the comment section. If not, we're going to be wrapping up in a bit. Otherwise, Amir, I wanted to ask where people can find you. What's the best way for people to reach out to you if they have a bunch of questions around lookalike audiences?
They can add me from. They can add me on LinkedIn. They can find me as from my name, Amir Nurmagomedov. And
or company rich,
you can on company rich, you can also ping us there in the chat. We will also connect them. We have also automations when someone sign up to our platform, when we also connect them on a LinkedIn. So it's also can be done
Gotcha.
to like connect
Maybe
us.
one question that I'm seeing right now popping up is how do people consume typically your data? Is that in the CRM, in Clay, like organization software? Where do you see a typical sort of consumption of your data happening?
Yeah, for now, I think the more people using inside the Clay as a starting point to starting there, like a GTM strategy, that kind of stuff. And when you just like jump in a Clay, you can do whatever you want, like then go to the CRM or create your own, workflows. But as I said, I think more people like use inside of Clay, and yeah.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amir. If anybody has any questions for me, guys, you can also find me on LinkedIn, Frank Saunders, the guy with the bacon emoji, bringing home the bacon. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and we shall see you next time. Thank you, Amir. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Frank. Bye-bye.